Get to know Renu Robotics, the company specializing in utility-scale solar plants. And believe me when I tell you that there's nothing on the autonomous market today that compares with their technical capabilities. Welcome, guys, to one more episode of Builder Nation. For today's interview, we have Michael Blanton, their CTO. Michael, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on board.
Lisa, it is a pleasure to be here speaking with you today. Appreciate the invite. I'm the CTO of Renu Robotics, lead all the technical development for the autonomous mowing system and all the supplemental components of it, the recharge pod, the solar charger, everything that helps the robot operate out in the real world completely autonomously. My background is in electrical engineering. I did a lot of development at a nonprofit organization for advanced robotics and automation, doing a lot of vision guidance of robotics and advanced autonomy. And then ran into Tim Mattis, our CEO, a number of years ago, and he had the desire to start up a company that was a manufacturing-based company that would serve an industry need that he had identified at the time, which was vegetation management on industrial scale solar farms. So after the solar farms are installed, the largest cost, or one of the largest costs, is the O&M cost for managing the vegetation, just keeping the grass mowed, keeping the plants out of the panels, keeping it a safe environment for producing electricity. And so he wanted to look at automating a ground robotic system that could manage that vegetation. So we got a small team of people together. There's about 4 of us that started tinkering around in a garage and building prototypes. And after about a year or so, we built a sufficient enough prototype to do a test pilot program. So we built 4 of those units, 1 here to stay at home base and do development on, and 3 of them to go out into the field with an energy partner out on the East Coast. And so during the COVID lockdowns, I was traveling out to the East Coast a lot. We were field testing the units, getting a lot of feedback on their performance in the field, enhancements that we needed to make to the system for this pilot program. And so during all of COVID, the small team was working feverishly to make updates and upgrades to the mechanical, electrical, and software components of the system. Towards the end of COVID, we were ready to roll out our Generation 3 model, which is our current production unit. We have over 60 of those out in the field right now, and we are continually monitoring them and continuing to make upgrades and enhancements. We had originally thought that we could do this fully autonomously, completely hands-off, quickly realized that it would be a great benefit to be able to get a human in the loop at some points in time. There's just things in the world that robots aren't quite trained to handle yet or aren't able to interpret and deal with. And so we stood up what we call mission control, which is a remote monitoring service. So at any point in time, the bot, while it's operating, if it runs across a situation it doesn't know how to handle, it will call home, and a mission control operator will remote into the bot and determine what the issue is, get the bot recover from that situation and get it back on its way. And so that's become a core piece of our technology offering, along with this robot as a service, as we call it.
Talking about the company and the recent news, I know that the Ford International Airport recently announced the 3rd round of fleet, and Renu Robotics is one of the 5 companies selected. So congratulations on that. Can you talk a little bit about it and how is this going to work?
We designed the Renu bot to work on solar farms. It's one of the more complicated environments to try to get an autonomous vehicle to operate in. There's a lot of critical infrastructure there that you have to be really careful around. And so rather than starting off, going for like sports fields or golf courses or parks, we went for the very complicated one of the solar farms. That's our core target market. And with the success that we've seen out there and the capabilities that we've built into the system to handle, other vertical markets have been seeking us out. And one of those vertical markets is airports. A lot of birds can try to live there. So they want to maintain the grass levels so that it helps promote animals not trying to live at the airport. That's one of the areas that we've been pulled into recently. We've got a couple of pilot programs going right now with airports.
Okay, that's an interesting market as well, if we can put it like that. And talking about your experience, Michael, you are an engineer, right?
Yes.
So now you're the CTO, you probably have a lot of hats on in your everyday. So I wanted to ask, how close are you with the engineering team?
I directly manage the engineering team. We talk on a daily basis about issues. We're still a team size of about 10 people right now. Overall, for the company, we're about 58 people. So we've grown considerably. There's a lot of support services that we've grown. We got the sales, marketing, procurement, production. We've got the mission control team. We've got the field services team, and then we've got the engineering team. And so I interact with all of those teams on some level, but I directly manage the technology developments.
You mentioned at the beginning of the interview how you guys survived the pandemic. So I'm curious to ask, what was the biggest challenge there? Talking about procurement or supply chain issues, How did you manage that?
And one of the biggest challenges was the drop in microchip availability in electrical components. But we have a small team, so we're able to be very agile and move quickly, but also the ability of the engineers directly involved with the designs are highly capable and experienced engineers. So we were able to move through and quickly modify the necessary portions of the system to accommodate the lack of that component. So, and at one point it was almost a daily activity because you would see that a component was not available anymore. You would identify one that's available and start to redesign it. And then that component you were redesigning in wasn't available anymore. So we changed the process that we used for design during this pandemic issue. What we did is we identified components that were appropriate for the design. And before putting them in the design and completing that, we would just purchase the components. We would say, these will work. Before we put them in the design, we're just going to buy them. And we bought enough to cover our production needs and then some. So we generated a surplus of components that allow us to draw those components into new designs and the existing designs as well. So that was one of the methods that we used to get ahead of some of these procurement issues during the pandemic.
Talking about the next steps for the company, what would you say comes next for Renu Robotics?
Next is growth. We've got a roadmap of additional products to be putting out and capabilities, enhancements to the systems, taking a lot of feedback from customers on what else would be useful for their industry. So we're actively working on additional designs and just growing our sales pipeline. Eventually, we're looking to go international. So that's a long-term play. We've had a lot of pull this year to go international. A lot of the solar companies, energy producing companies around the world, Australia, South America, Europe, all have the same needs. Right now, our core customer base is domestic here in the US, and that's our primary target for now, but we are working towards getting certifications to go international as well. We are actively expanding our facility, working on getting a larger facility to support the company growth. Last year, we've seen exponential growth in personnel, and we've had a lot of success with investors. We hope to see that continued excitement as we grow our business.
You mentioned how important is customer feedback.
That was a key component to our success. We didn't just design a robot and say, let's go find a use for it. We went to the industry and said, would this be useful to you? And they said, absolutely, yes, that's exactly what we're looking. And so we identified that. The customer said, yes, we will buy that if you can offer that. And so we went out and built it.
Michael, do you have any advice for future CTOs or engineers starting on this path?
Be willing to let yourself be challenged. Don't be comfortable in anything that you're engaging in. Push yourself to learn new things and to explore areas that you're not comfortable with. Continue to push yourself to excel at what you do know, but then reach out and explore. One of the key things about leading a technology development company, being able to delegate and trust your team to take care of the things that need to be taken care of. Building a team of people that are capable, knowledgeable, driven, and are trustworthy to be able to hand off things that need to be developed, because every single component of this system is critical and no one person can pull this all off. So you have to be willing to trust people.
Do you have any social media handles? Where can people find you, or Renu Robotics?
We have renubot.com. You can find us there, and we're on all those typical social media interfaces as well. We post pretty regularly on there.
And remember, guys, that you can also find more information, interesting articles, interesting interviews, just like this one with Michael, directly on our website, ControlHub.com/builder-nation. We would love to hear from you. And once again, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time. We love having you at Builder Nation.
It was a great pleasure, Lisa. I really appreciate the time. You have a blessed day.